A couple of weeks ago, I spotted some work by a photographer named Michael Fairchild. Well, the picture that I was looking at was a very large color print. It turns out Michael does all his printing himself. I thought it'd be interesting for us to stop by and say hello. Hi, Michael. How you doing today?
Glad you could come over.
Thank you. Michael, you're very well known for doing a lot of color work and printing it yourself. It seems to me that it's inexpensive enough to just send it out and have somebody else do the printing. Why do you do so much yourself?
Well, I like to have ultimate control over the way a picture looks. And in the darkroom, you can do things that just aren't possible from a regular lab.
Well, you've set out this example. How'd you get that shot of the bird flying by the mountain range?
It's really two pictures combined into one. The bird was on a white background, an overcast sky, and I sandwiched it with a mountain from Mount McKinley, Alaska.
So by going into the darkroom, you've actually created a shot that never existed before you got to the darkroom.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at another example.
This picture over here looks like a straight print. Without careful printing, however, you would lose all the detail that you see in the bottom of this shot, because the straight print would allow only for the sky, and the bottom would look very, very dark. It looks like a complicated process, but really all it involves is allowing less time for the bottom of the print than the top of the print.
Michael, you mentioned this sounds very complicated, but it's really not.
Now, actually, a lot of darkroom procedure is fairly simple. If you like, I'll give you a look.
I would love it. Let's do it. Michael, you have your darkroom laid out pretty well, and it looks like you have just about everything you need to do color processing. It doesn't seem so intimidating when you really look at it like this, does it?
Well, it's not that complicated when you start to work with it. When I print color, I usually have a color negative, and you load it into the enlarger like this. Then you turn on the power, and this has a motor so you can...
Well, that's convenient, isn't it?
This gives you a chance to make your picture bigger or smaller. It's called cropping. But before you expose the paper, you have to do three very important things. First, you select the aperture. That controls the amount of light hitting the paper and also controls the sharpness of the image. And this is the timer. It controls the amount of light that hits the paper. It's set here for 24 seconds. If I wanted to change it to 44 seconds, I would turn this dial like this.
Michael, these two things control the amount of light. How do we control the color of light?
These three dials up here control the quality of color hitting the paper during your exposure. When you turn this dial like this, it decreases the amount of yellow hitting the paper and therefore controls the color. This is the magenta and this is the cyan.
Is color control in printing largely guesswork?
There's a little bit of intuitive work to it. The whole trick is to look at the print and decide what color is in excess.
Do you have a set of prints that we could look at where you've got different colors already printed?
Sure, come on up, I'll show you some.
Michael, taken individually, each one of these shots just looks great.
It's true, when you don't compare pictures, you're likely to think a shot looks fine. These three photos are prints of a great gray owl, one of the rarest birds in North America. If you look over at this picture, you'll notice that there's an excess of yellow in the picture, which I think detracts from the feeling of the shot. When you come over to this picture, the color has been corrected pretty much, but for my taste, it's a little bit bleached out.
And it does tend to dissolve into the background a little bit, doesn't it?
In this picture here, you have the right level of saturation, and I think it adds a lot to the power of the picture.
Well, Michael, this has been a very informative day for me. I sure do appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming over.
Thanks for having us into your darkroom and into your home.
Oh, it was great. Thanks.
Yes, sure.